So people of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we just got another look at She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, and this trailer was most certainly interesting, featuring a lot more of what we have to expect with this show. Now, what I'm going to do first of all is break this down and then get into my personal thoughts of and feelings of the look and vibe from this show and what this trailer showcased to us. Right away in this trailer, the show gives us the who is She-Hulk, what does she do, what we're looking at, and that character is Jennifer Walters, played by Tatiana Maslany. Now, she is an incredible actor. I followed her for a long time. One of her biggest standout roles, I believe, is Orphan Black, and in that she plays multiple characters. It was very big when it was airing, and I trust a lot of you know who she is, even if you haven't seen Orphan Black. But that is personally, even though I'm going to save a little bit more for this towards the end of this breakdown, one of my main hype factors behind this, because I think she is going to be the one, as per what you'd expect, being the lead, carrying the show, so to speak. But Jennifer Walters, the character Tatiana is playing, is a lawyer of whom has been put in charge, as the trailer points out here, of a superhuman law division. And I believe the very firm that she works for here is, as we see teased on the wall, and I believe it stands for Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway, which is in the same shot as where we see Josh Segarra, who actually, as I'm sure some people are watching on the channel, because I cover some of the DC TV shows, many of you may recognize him having played Adrian Chase / Prometheus. Good to see you again, Josh, popping up in this. But if it wasn't obvious already, She-Hulk, as a lot of you probably already know, Jennifer is indeed the cousin of Bruce Banner. And in the comics, after being shot and almost dying, she was saved by Bruce through a blood transfusion, which is kind of self-explanatory as to how exactly she, starts to get a very similar power set to that of her Hulk cousin. Now, in the source material, and as I always say, adaptations aren't copy and paste, but she was actually shot by members of a gang on behalf of the orders of Nicholas Trask, or Trask. Now, Nicholas Trask was a crime boss who actually, believe it or not, also got Jennifer's mother killed in the past. And the reason why Trask ordered this hit on Jennifer is because she was defending another gangster who wasn't exactly in the best books with Trask, and she also had some very serious evidence to incriminate him, which ultimately provoked, the hit on her. Now, the thing is about what this trailer shows us, we do see some gang members, which could hint at members of the Wrecking Crew, with the source material reflecting a bit more of a reaching aspect of them with a freaking enchanted crowbar, which I don't think we could see in this. I mean, it'd be pretty hilarious if we did. But at the same time, getting back on point, they might not even go that way, because she does seem to be having a car crash that is likely to end up almost getting her killed, and her needing her cousin's blood transfusion. But you could always argue that that car crash was, caused by a gang or enemies of someone she was defending and who wanted to take her out because it would only benefit them. Who knows? They could keep it simple with her origin of becoming She-Hulk is just a simple, oh, look back, spin the wheels, car crash. Or it could be a hit because people want to see her dead, because she's a lawyer defending maybe shady people. Now, speaking of the Superhuman Law Division, we do actually see Jennifer go to this facility to speak with one of them, which seems to be an on-land facility for keeping superhuman inmates, even aliens in the comics, if I have that correct. And I believe this was originally one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s classified bases, and one of the interesting things that we get featured inside of this facility is that of Abomination being contained within this little unit. Well, I say it's a little, but it kind of actually is, because one part of the trailer shows him mid-transformation. He keeps growing and growing and freaking bangs his head on the ceiling of the unit. And it honestly does look as though that even though we see him in human form and then that mid-transformation when he bumps his head, that we could see Tatiana's Jennifer defend him as one of her clients. I mean, hence the whole, I'm going to put you in charge of the Superhuman Law Division. So that's going to be an interesting little side part to this series as well. But moving onwards, it seems that we have Jennifer not in an uncontrollable Hulk mode when we see Jennifer with Bruce here within his lab. Now, this is likely, this whole scene, to encourage her to come to terms and ease her into her Hulk side without raging out when transforming, because Bruce says in this moment that your transformations are triggered by anger and your fear. The trailer also shows some superhero training, if you will, even if she is a bit reluctant, such as jumping great distances. As we know, Hulk has the ability to literally leap such huge distances, and this doesn't seem to be in a populated area, which makes sense. You wouldn't want to train your, newly Hulk cousin in a place like New York, for example, leaping from street to street, breaking roads and whatnot. So yeah, look at this as somewhat of her superhero training wheels. But this also ends up with her transforming and then breaking the hinges off the door, and Hulk getting scared for some reason. Well, I suppose from her perspective, she just did have a bunch of spinning razor blades coming at her, so she's, well, no pun intended here, pretty angry. But it seems that they've spent quite some time in the jungle destination, and it's probably for that Hulk crash course, and it seems as though some meditation is coming into this as well, which is a nice callback to somewhat kind of center herself, which is a technique Bruce has used before to help control the anger and whatnot. Now, as for Bruce's arm being practically, as far as we can tell, fully healed, I think that's kind of, in my personal taste, a little bit of a shame. I mean, I know his gamma radiation after this amount of time would have massively healed it due to, the healing factor. A friend of mine pointed out quite a decent point, I feel, in that what kind of sacrifice really is there then for Hulk having made the snap if it's just all a-okay now? Now, I'm not saying his arm should still look like this kind of rotting, decaying mess, but a badass scar there that not even his radiation healing factor could heal would have just been a cool reminder. I'm very aware of his healing factor. Just feel like doing such an extravagant thing that someone like Tony couldn't even do. Yes, I know he's the Hulk. Some kind of mark or remembrance about that would have been a cool creative choice, in my opinion. Now, with all of this getting very legal and lawyery, there's rumors of maybe Matt Murdock making an appearance in this series, which, makes sense with the whole attorney side of things, representing superhumans. With Matt Murdock bleeding his way slowly into the MCU, this does feel somewhat likely that they could offer some more fun cameos here. We get to feel out a little bit more of how much has he changed from the Netflix version, because yes, he didn't seem all that much changed in No Way Home, but that was literally just a very, very short, brief scene, whereas Kingpin seemed to be changed quite a bit in some ways, yet still acted similar in other ways. So again, just fascinated to know if that's going to happen, and let me know if you would like to see that. But on top of Abomination being one of the other characters that we saw in this trailer, we also have Frogman featuring in this trailer, as well as Titania, played by Jamila Jamil. Now, Titania is just ridiculously and insanely strong. She has insane stamina and can also take a lot of punches, and this somewhat comes into her story anyway for what she ended up becoming, because after growing up and being teased for being the smallest, she somewhat developed this bitterness, if you will, because of what she endured, and wanted to become more, which eventually ended up with her getting superpowers by Doctor Doom. But it also, as per something like the Super Serum, which somewhat alters your headspace, if you will, her getting these powers, these meta powers, also altered her mentality to somewhat be the opposite of what she felt growing up. So her confidence or lack of confidence growing up went to extreme confidence. She then went out wanting to test her powers. That basically bumped her into She-Hulk, which then was also the beginning of their long back and forth. And within this trailer, it seems as though Titania attacks Jennifer during a trial that she's conducting, so that's going to be quite interesting, and I'm wondering if that elevates her up to be one of the big bads of this show. Now, as for my boy Frogman, well, he isn't exactly that much of a special character. I mean, in the source material, his suit is equipped with this somewhat leaping coil tech, which allows him to leap literally like a frog, except up to several stories, which I can imagine the MCU doing as a bit of a joke-esque kind of character. He's Frogman in a frog suit. Hey, let's make him leap Look how funny that will be, especially on top of the comedic vibes of this series. So we're gonna have to wait and see there. Now, towards the end of this trailer, it shows a lot of these comedic vibes that we were just touching on. You know, she starts dating multiple people at the very end. As a result of all of this as well, she says that she just wants to be a normal, anonymous lawyer. So if you couldn't tell already, this show is going to get into that somewhat tropey reluctance to be a superhero, but as Hulk, or should I say Bruce, says himself in the trailer, I know you didn't ask for this, but you still gotta deal with it. And as a result of being saved by her famous cousin, the Hulk, you know, obviously when you've become a new Hulk, but a She-Hulk, you're gonna get a lot of, you know, press, attention. So that's when we see reporters outside her apartment or something saying, can you tell us where She-Hulk is? Her friend saying, you're a story now. Now, as for breaking the fourth wall, that's been a topic of conversation for quite a while, especially since that first teaser seemed to demonstrate something of that. Breaking the fourth wall is this somewhat characteristic-y kind of attribute that She-Hulk has had in her stories for a very, very, very long time now. Now, I don't think it's ever been explicitly described. Do correct me if I'm wrong in the comics as to how exactly she has this power, but you could somewhat look at it as Hulk sometimes has somewhat of his own, you know, unique perceptions, and as a result, She-Hulk also has her own, and that is to break the fourth wall. Something about, you could say, the gamma enhancing the psychic portions of that of any Hulk being. It's just each one may have their own little unique ability there. I don't know if they're going to explicitly explain this. I don't know if they're going to lean into it heavily. I think they might. Some people feel like she's already looked at the camera in the trailer in a couple of shots. But that is more or less everything as far as details go. Now, as for my impressions of this trailer, I didn't cover it as soon as it came out because it kind of came out late-ish for me. But my first impressions was it just kind of looks okay. I'm a big fan of Tatiana's work. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I even tweeted out saying I think she's going to be the one to carry this series, just as I feel like Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke did for Moon Knight. Don't get me wrong, there was interesting parts of Moon Knight, but I do feel like they were the best parts, and I feel like she will most certainly be the best part. As kind of what I teased already, she's the lead, so they've got to get that right. I feel like they've got that right. The CGI, again, I'm not one of those people who kind of like, hey, look at the CG of this thing and this Marvel movie or this Marvel. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I notice it, I'll say something about it, or it could have been more polished here. But I did want to give that context because if I'm not one of those people, for me to be jarred in this teaser trailer, again, was just jarring in of itself. I was jarred by the lack of sheen on this. Again, you get a lot of fans saying, oh, you know, it's got to be polished more. This is just a teaser trailer. But my argument there is, like, this doesn't even remotely seem to be polished to the point of where they should have even put this teaser out, because that's how bad I think the CG was. It looks alright at points, but I feel like there's some video game quality aspects to it. I feel like her expressions, like specifically making an expression like your smile and the eyebrows going up, when you make that smile, the cheeks, it feels like droopy, gloopy, video gamey when done, like blurry around it. It's really not good CG. And again, yes, I know they will probably polish it by the time of release, but to put it out in a teaser was just, once again, jarring. Now, I'm sure this series will be fun. I hope I have a good time with it. I'm looking forward to Tatiana, just kill it as She-Hulk, but it just I'm not going to pretend to me what it isn't, and it just doesn't look mind-blowing. It just looks okay for now. I do like comedic shows when they're specifically comedic. For example, what I mean by that is, you know, a lot of MCU movies can't always figure out their tone through injecting serious moment, but comedic moment. But when they embrace comedy and don't take themselves so seriously within that of the DNA of the show, I definitely look forward to that. Like, I feel like WandaVision did a good job there. I'm not going to judge too harshly until I see the actual show, but even from what they showed, like, yeah, it looks like a bit of fun, but nothing stands out, in my opinion, especially with that of the lackluster effects of She-Hulk herself. So, again, fair enough if you love the look of this, fair enough if you don't. Let me know everything you have to say down in the comments. Like this video if you did enjoy it, and do consider subscribing if you want to stay up to date with more thoughts. Do check out my video from yesterday as well, where we go over The Boys Season 3 trailer, and the video before that is my breakdown on the new teaser footage we got for Netflix's The Sandman. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the next video. Goodbye.